Okay, so we're gonna make a recording right now with Eric and Susie and Dave the Wave. They all used to be tenants there at Beat City. They lived at the property in Beat City, and apparently, from our best determination after everything we've seen today, is the property that owned that property. That is where Jim and Karen had Trinity Bay Tactical. And from what we've come to understand today, on open records is that Jim had
Violations.
five violations with federal firearms guys, and we've documented those, and those are in a folder. Well, the thing that's very curious now is Jim, once people started moving in the ark, in a need for what he said personal money, he needed personal money, not just the money that was coming and being donated to him. He was saying, well, I have these AR parts for, making an AR rifle. He said, I have all these AR parts. I could make like a really cool 5.56 or whatever 300 blackout, which is like the gift he gave me the very first day I met the Sullivans. Jim presented me with a 300 blackout that he had made for me as a gift, the very first meeting. So anyway, so he wanted to make some weapons and say, hey, would you be willing to give me just some money for the weapons so I can get some personal cash and I can get rid of some of my parts? And I was like, yeah, but then I said, but I don't want to do anything illegal, so I'm asking you yes or no. Do you still have an FFL? And he's like, oh, no, 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 no. He assured me his federal firearms license was whatever, no longer in effect. And I'm not sure about whether or not that's true at the time that he had started making me some of these ARs, because that was his way of getting extra money from me by saying, hey, I could really use, another $1,500. Could I make you a really cool AR rifle and da da da? And I'd be like, yeah, okay. But I remember I was like, okay, like enough of the ARs. He's done this to me about 6 or 7 times now, and that's enough. I was getting like, okay, it's getting a little too much of that shtick or whatever. So anyway, we're gonna call Eric and Susie right now, and Dave the Wave, and just build a timeline of when they showed up and Jim's behavior and what Jim was saying and doing, and was he I know that he was making weapons for people that were living there, because I know he made one for Cory, and I actually gave him money for the one he made for Cory, and he made one for Megan, and Megan, I don't think Megan's ever touched a gun in her life. And they made Megan like her own custom AR. And Jim's ideology was he believed that the government was going to come and force vaccines on everybody. So his plan was to take people, if they were at Beach City when it started happening, if that was going to be something they were going to do, the government, Jim would take people to the Ark, and there they would have their safe bastion, and everybody was well armed, and that was kind of his thing. And I told the people at the Ark, or when I say the Ark, I should say Beat City, that were part of we'll call it the Ark Project, which is the place in Wallaceville, which is where they wanted to go kind of retreat to if that were to happen. Anyway, so I went to Houston and I told everybody, guys, it's a personal decision. If anyone feels like they don't want to take a vaccine and they're trying to force a vaccine on you, that's going to have to be, your hill and your decision that you decide at that time. And we had that discussion, and Jim and Karen very seriously convoluted that meeting, and Karen very, very seriously convoluted what was said during that meeting in one of her comments she left on one of these, I believe it was Gene Revel videos. Okay, so here we go. We're going to call these guys up. I'm going to call Dave the Wave, and we're going to talk to Eric and Susie and Dave all together right now. Turn my volume way up, the size it'll go. Okay, here we go.
Hello.
Hey, can you guys hear me all right?
Oh, I thought you were calling there, but I'm back in my rooms.
Oh, okay. Well, would you mind? Everyone's going to be on the phone call, you included, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why. Yeah.
James on the phone, the recording.
Okay, so first of all, can everybody just say who I'm talking to?
It's Dave. Eric. Susie.
So Eric and Susie Harless and Dave the Wave, Dave Tinder. Okay, so guys, I just want to make a record because we've come across a bunch of very enlightening paperwork and things that would have kind of probably big ramifications. So anyway, I wanted people being on record. You understand you're being recording right now, right? Being recorded?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's just very quickly establish a history. Dave the Wave, you came down after Jim said he wanted to open up the Ark. I said, well, Dave would be a great person. He's real good at techie stuff. He's pretty good at that kind of stuff. So Jim had agreed to open the doors, and you and Lee Selvog were the first two guys to come down. And y'all were driven down during a big winter storm with Jack Lamb, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so Jack Lamb drove y'all down. Do you know when that was? Generally, like the month and the year. Can you just state that?
Yeah, it was the last week of February of 2021.
So the last week of February 2021, Jack Lamb picked you guys up and from Iowa, and he picked you up in Iowa, and then y'all went over to Minnesota to pick up Lee. Is that right, or did Lee take a bus to meet you guys?
Lee finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, he picked up Lee and then showed, that's right, then he showed to pick up you. And then he drove you guys through a major winter storm down to Jim and Karen's property out at Wallaceville. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And that's when Cory and I had gone there and we had worked. I remember I was working in 7-degree weather. It was major Texas storm, and I was building the bathroom. So y'all would have a bathroom, and that was the building that was called the Man Cave, where Jim had been growing his weed, and I was converting it to living spaces for y'all. Does that sound about right according to your knowledge?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so when y'all got there, I had put in a bathroom and y'all had places to sleep in that building. Is that right?
Yes. Lee was staying out there. I was staying in the main house.
So y'all stayed in the main you stayed in the main cabin. I remember the first night Lee was there too, because it was kind of awkward for me. I remember that night. So anyway, all right. So Eric and Susie, how did you guys end up at the Ark? Kind of the short version. So just give us a short version. We're just establishing a record. When did who called you, who invited you, and when did you go?
So Darren Sullivan messaged me on Facebook, and we exchanged phone numbers, and she called me and said, you guys should come out to the Ark and stay with us. And I said, well, I really can't do that without the Lord, confirming that's what he wants me to do. So she said, yeah, well, we need staff. And
so she said, we need staff.
Yes.
Okay, so she was saying you were going to be staff then, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, so then what happened?
So they invited us out, and I got my confirmation from the Lord, yes. And, now leave now. So we wound up there on May 4th. We were there. Jim came out and picked us up, and we were there on May 4th. We spent the first night at the cabin, and then they asked us if we wanted to stay there or move more there. I say I'd rather be out there so we could have a bigger room because we have, quite a few things, and so we ended up going into the community center.
So when you say community center, you're speaking about the place that Karen's mother owns in Beach City. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So then you moved in there. Was Dave living at that residence at the time? Was Dave living in the same building that you moved in? Okay, so David moved from the property in Wallaceville out in the woods. He had already moved to the place that was owned by Karen's mother, and he moved in there, and then y'all showed up and y'all all moved in. And so you were living there, and Dave the Wave was living there and Jim and Karen were living in the same building, just on the other side of the building. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then were you ever aware that the building itself used to be a gun store, or no?
Yes, I found that out later on.
Okay, so you found out later that the actual building you're living in, part of it was used by Jim and Karen as a gun store. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
because there was several items left in the room where we had that we were occupying that were items that had like telescopic limbs, rack holders, things of that nature, boxes of gun clips and ammo boxes.
Oh, so they had display cases in your room that used to be in their gun store.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I saw those. I was wondering what those were. I was like, why did they have those? He never conveyed that to me. Isn't that strange? So he never really wanted me to know that the gun store was there because I thought it was somewhere else in Houston. So anyway, okay, but that was the location of the gun store. Now I know that Jim in need for personal money asked me several times if he could make me an AR and maybe just get a little personal money because I was already giving him money. And I said, well, yeah, okay, he needs extra cash, personal money, not to be convoluted with the donations that were coming into him. So I said, yeah, okay. But I specifically asked him, well, do you still have an FFL, to do this? Because you can't sell someone a weapon without them filling out paperwork if you have an FFL. And so he said, oh, no, I don't have an FFL anymore. And I was like, okay, well, then as long as you're telling me it's totally legal and you can do that, all right, that's fine. And so that's what he told me. And that's what he had conveyed to me. So here's a question. Did he ever ask you if you wanted an AR for him to make you one?
Me personally, no.
Okay, so I know you had brought some old gun out there that maybe had been with you for a long time, but so Jim didn't ask you if you needed an AR or anything like that.
Not right off the bat, no.
He asked me.
So Susie, he asked you if you wanted one.
Yes. He
Oh,
did.
okay, gotcha. Well, are y'all aware that he made Megan one as well?
Yes,
Yes.
I am.
So Megan, who was also living at y'all's same residence with Jim and Karen, Jim made her an AR. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so you're aware that I believe, and I have to talk to Alex and Alyssa. Do y'all know about any other ARs he was making for people?
Yes.
What do you got?
He was, I don't know if he ever asked Ryan, but somehow that come up in a conversation and he asked Ryan too.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'll talk to Ryan as well. Okay, so that's about the just. Jack Lamb is beeping in. Let me see if I can get Jack in on the phone call. Hang on. Hey, Jack. Jack. Hey, I'm on the other line with Eric and Susie and Dave, giving a recorded statement from them. Okay, you're welcome to join the phone call, or I can call you back. Okay, well, join on in. I'm going to merge you. Okay, Dave, the wave, you and Eric and Susie are still there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Jack, you're on the phone with us?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so anyway, so I'm just trying to establish the fact that Jim had a bunch of AR parts and he was making people weapons. Does that sound correct to you guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and y'all are aware that he made me several weapons as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because when he made them, he had a firing range there at the property out in Wallaceville, and we would go to the firing range and fire the weapons that he had made for us. Here's another question. Jim had a meeting and everybody got together there in Beach City. And at that time we discussed, because Jim had conveyed that he was concerned that the government would show up and force vaccines on everybody. And there was a plan for you guys to retreat to the Ark out in Wallaceville if that were to happen, so you could not be forced to be given a vaccine. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I was there for that meeting. Do you remember or no?
We had a question before, weeks before you.
Okay, so okay, very good. So he had actually mentioned it to you guys before I ever showed up, and everybody got together in the whatever that middle room was called.
No, we were at Jim and Karen's side of the house.
Oh, so y'all were actually on Jim and Karen's side of the house where he first initiated all that conversation about the government's going to show up and force all these vaccines, and y'all need to get out of there when that happens. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, he called a meeting and wanted everybody to attend.
And was he talking about using deadly force or anything like that? You know, like if someone showed up to force a vaccine on you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so he's like, well, if that happens, then what? If they show up to give you everybody vaccines, then what?
Then we defend ourselves.
Okay, so that's what he was saying. Was that what I was telling you guys? Was that me telling you, or was that Jim saying those things?
That was Jim saying that.
Okay, and that was in front of Karen as well. Is that correct?
That was correct.
Okay, and then I came in town a few weeks later. Oh, it's called, what was the room y'all called the middle area? The
community room.
Yeah, the community room. Then I showed up and I said, because Jim had brought all that up, and I said, I remember having a conversation with y'all and telling you guys, like, on a Christian level, no one's allowed to give you a vaccine. They can't force you to take it. But if that happens, and that's y'all's decision when the time comes, is that correct or not correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And I said, it's everyone's own personal decision. And I think Dave said, well, I'm just going to put a target on me or something silly and run outside, right? Does that sound right to you guys? I think I remember Dave. All right, I'm just going to draw a target on me and run out the door, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that's y'all's, y'all's decisions. That's not for me to tell you what to do. Is that true or completely true or just?
That is true. 100% true.
Okay, there you go. I just want to get a record of all this. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. I don't know. You guys are probably not aware that we've come to find out that Jim has had several, what are they called, violations from federal firearms people against him for not filling out paperwork on selling weapons. And apparently they passed him over for prosecution, but he was given I guess, a stiff warning. And now we have that documented. So now a lot of things are looking much more, there looks like there's all kinds of reasons Jim would start these channels against Jonathan Kleck being some evil guy. So, okay, did y'all ever see me being mean to Jim, hateful to Jim?
Oh, no.
No.
Was I anything but open and giving? I mean, just say 100% truth. What did y'all see?
We've seen a very loving relationship, and you tried, and Jim just.
Well, I would show up and bring food for everybody on my trips. Yes. And Cory, is this true, or anyone that has knowledge of this? Dave may have knowledge of this. Like Cory, I would say I think we got enough money right now, so I think I'll buy steak so Karen can eat steak. Yep. Because she really likes steak, and I know and I said Susie likes steak, so I was buying the steaks in a big way for you guys. Did you know that or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if she was Karen made comments like, me and my friends ate Wagyu, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's just so not accurate. I remember I was at the counter in San Antonio and they had this Wagyu on sale. And I said, you know what? Let me have one little piece of that and I'm going to take it to Houston. And we cooked one piece and we cut up little slivers because it was, pretty expensive per pound. So everyone could see, is there some big difference between this and the other ribeyes that I bought for everybody? So, yeah, but.
Lest we forget about all the Thanksgiving dinners we hauled out of Central Market all the way down to Houston with big coolers.
Well, yeah, I mean, we tried to do a lot to feed everybody there when we came in, yes or no?
Yep.
Yes.
And then you guys would make y'all's food and we'd have a big get together, yeah?
Yep.
Yes.
I saw
Oh,
you
yeah.
dole out
You
money
guys
to
come out and
people too.
work
before-
You guys always had food that was brought. You guys went out and grabbed food and brought it back to everybody was still working.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so we tried to feed everybody when we were there. So here's another question. Because y'all were, new to the area and y'all, and people were settling in, is it true that I was giving money to most of the tenants that were invited there by Jim and Karen, just so people had their own personal money?
Yes,
Yes,
it was.
yeah. I just want to say every time that I had seen you when you would arrive on that premise on the property, he was always about, hey, is there anything I can do for you guys? Is there anything you guys need? Where are you at financially? I mean, you fixed my vehicle so many times I can't even count. You've helped us financially to pay bills and gas and food, and
Yes.
just not us. Everybody else around us was always able to have their needs taken care of because of your open-handedness.
Okay, thank you. And then, so here's another thing that I'm curious about, because I was giving Jim and Karen money every month to pay all bills, internet, water, electricity, whatever they told me the bills were. I said, okay, here's the money, take care of all the bills, because I didn't want any of you guys being there to be a personal burden to Jim and Karen. And so then, there was a time where Jim and Karen tried to guilt people that were tenants into paying them for the bills. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
there was.
So what did they do? Just tell everybody what happened.
Well, the whole thing started because I had Alyssa Howard over and worked on the website, just the com, and Jim got very upset and yelled at me in front of everybody that I'm going to get us all kicked out because all the traffic. It was one car. So I said, well, because he said, because we don't pay anything. My mom's letting us have this property for free and nobody pays anything. So I said, well, we can give a couple $100 a month. And then Susie said, how about $300? And so we ended up paying them $300 a month to stay there.
So,
Unbeknownst to us that you were paying.
Yeah, we had no idea you were paying them.
so they didn't let y'all know, well, Johnny's paying all the bills for all you guys anyway,
Yeah.
but they were more than willing to take money for y'all, and y'all are on Social Security, right?
Yes, they were.
Okay, so they're taking money from handicapped people on Social Security. Did y'all know that I talked to LaDonna Cesar, and she told me she was giving them $1,000 a month, sometimes at least once or even twice a month. Did y'all know that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to other people that were giving the Sullivans money on a monthly basis. LaDonna said she was in front of these guys. She gave us a recorded statement. And so they were getting money on a monthly basis from LaDonna. They were getting pretty big chunks of money. I know that Mike, is it Barber, gave them the white Mustang, and Jim was like, oh boy, I can do a lot with this. And I said, well, you know what? I'd like to actually buy that car if you don't mind, instead of just, giving it away for whatever, nothing. And so I gave him $10,000 and then another $5,000. I gave him $15,000 for the car. So, but all these people that were giving him money were people that knew me, not that people that knew him. Is that right?
Yeah.
As far as y'all know. Right. Okay.
During when we were there, Jim was overloaded with the gifts to go. And so he had talked to me and Dave, and I was the one that was responding to all the emails from the donations that were coming in. So I would go in there and write a nice thank you letter to all the people that were sending the donations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've seen 18,000, 12,000, 5,000. I mean,
So you've seen some pretty big amounts of money going into those guys.
yes.
Oh, okay. So they use my YouTube channel, which I told people it would be okay. But y'all know that I said I do not intersect my ministry with anybody else teaching. Y'all know that, right?
Yes,
Yes.
we did.
So I told Jim, you're not a teacher. You're just giving people a place to stay. But did he try and start lording over people like he was, something other than just a place to stay?
Yes. Yes, you did.
Okay. Anyway,
It started turning into the situation where it felt like more like he was trying to run a business than an outreach to help others.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, there you go. That sounds right. Okay, because he was asking me for personal money for this, personal money for that. I was even giving his kid money. I gave his kid $500. I had knocked on his door and he didn't open the door. So I came down and told Jim and Karen, hey, I just slid the money on the door. It was $500 because they were saying, oh, well, he never comes out of his room. And I felt really bad for their son. And I thought, well, maybe he just needs a little money to get out or something. And they actually tried to turn that into something ugly, like some kind of dirty old man thing. I was like, y'all are sick. Anyway, yeah.
When they tried to turn that into a grooming situation, like you were trying to groom.
Yeah, when I saw that out in the comments, I was just like, these people are sick. They are sick. So after the fact, after the place went defunct, and after I confronted them about lying and speaking contemptuously, that was after the whole Night Under the Stars had happened. Because had I found out before, there wouldn't have been a Night Under the Stars. It would have just all gone south. So, is there anything anyone else wants to add while we're here? Jack, you're here. Eric, Susie. Like I said, I'm just taking down information because I'm gonna show that Jim had federal firearm. What are they called? Like
Federal firearms license.
yeah, he had an FFL, but there are like violations, I guess.
Yeah.
He has 5 violations listed, I believe, under Dragon Hill, Cory,
Dragon Farm, but I think it's under Warhorse.
Warhorse Industries, which Jim owns, as well as his Trinity
Dragon Hill
Bay
Farm.
tactical stuff.
Yeah.
And so he had an FFL while he was growing weed, and I told him, no, you got to stop all that because I can't let one person move into the ark while you're doing that. That's why I went out there and I made sure the building was cleaned out where he was growing his weed, and then I converted the bathroom and the rooms to like a bunkhouse for tenants. Does that sound right to you guys?
Yeah.
Did y'all see that with your own eyes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jack, you're well aware of that too, right? You drove those guys down during the snowstorm.
Right. And to get back to something that I just watched on this last video, I don't remember Jim's ex-sister-in-law from his half-brother. She was the one that was staying out at the ark. He had made some pot butter, took pot and put it in butter and made pot butter. Well, she thought that the butter had extruded all the THC out of the pot. She threw the pot outside, and it like they killed Boomer. I brought that up at Kathy and Chuck's house, and that's when Kathy stepped up like, nothing to see here, squirrel.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so
Yeah.
so the girl that was staying out at the ark, whoever she was, we'll figure out her name here, but she made up some product from Jim's marijuana,
Yeah.
and then that bucket that she used, the dog apparently licked up a bunch of the product.
Threw it up and ate it. Kills.
Oh, so Boomer ate a bunch of the pot butter and it really whacked him out. Okay, and then you were staying at Chuck and Kathy Edge's place.
I mentioned we're talking today to Kathy in front of Chuck, and then she jumped. It's like, wait a minute. What's going on?
Oh, so she that's when she tried to divert everybody's attention because Kathy knew that there was marijuana being grown at her mother's, at Jim and Karen's place out in the woods. So Kathy would have had to know about that, and she was trying to shush you. Does that sound right?
And Chuck was the sheriff of Waxahachie County at that time, so that would look real rough.
Oh, you mean at the time that happened, he was actually sheriff at that time.
The sheriff at the time spilled those beans.
So he was like, so that means no matter what, if she's shushing you, that she knew while her husband was the sheriff, her brother-in-law and her sister were growing weed at the property while Jim and Karen were living at her mother's house. So Jim and Karen were living in they were living in Beat City, which is owned by Karen and Kathy's mother. I don't want to use her name, but so the mother owned the property in Beat City, and then Jim and Karen were growing the weed, or whatever. Jim was growing the weed with the knowledge of Karen, obviously, and Kathy knew that Jim had an FFL because they both had gun stores. Kathy and Chuck had a gun store in Waxahachie, and then Jim and Karen had a gun store that was in the very house that people were living in out there. Is that right?
And that's the time that Jim stepped up after that, and he said, all residents that came in, if they had, it was going to go into a lot and be given out at his discretion. It's going to be the Lord over the pot.
What? Well, wait a minute. So if anyone shows up with weed, He said you had to give it to Jim, and then he would decide when you could have it.
And he would keep it alive. He'd give it out to the kids.
But nobody out there had weed. None of the people I sent.
Just the sister up a bunch of his, I guess.
Oh, geez, this is so crazy. This is just so crazy convoluted. And now we have this lunatic Jeff Pesca that. Okay, now I want to bring up a point. Here's the thing: after the whole arc went south, I had confronted Karen about speaking contemptuously. She lied 3 times. She did 2 fake videos saying how sorry she was, but every time I tried to post them, she took them. She would, I guess, she or someone associated with her had them taken down. And then y'all were served eviction notice. Is that true, Dave and Eric and Susie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and they told you to get out with how much notice did y'all get to get out?
2 weeks. In fact, they didn't even hand it to us. They were taped in the middle of the night at the front door. And 4 notices, 3 of them actually had blown off into the yard. Yep. Only 1 was left on the door.
Oh, wow. So even though they had been living there the whole time you guys were living there, Jim and Karen were living there in the same building, correct?
Yes.
But the building was split into 3 sections.
They hadn't been staying there for a month or so.
So yeah, but hang on, Dave. The entire time, Dave the Wave, and then Eric and Susie, and whoever else was there, Jim and Karen lived there the entire time, except when everything went south, they moved out. And then, does that sound right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to establish that they were always there. They lived there. Y'all lived there. Everybody lived there. And this is the place where the gun store was. And the FFL, the Federal Firearms License, looks like it was attached to that property. Does that sound right, Cory?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. So we have that in the show notes now. So that means that when they told y'all to get out, they didn't give me very much time to relocate you. Y'all know I was really struggling because I needed y'all to help me find a place to put you in. And I said I would come up with the money no matter what to get y'all in. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Okay, so did y'all get relocated? You don't have to tell people exactly where you're at, but you got relocated, right?
Yep.
Yes.
we did.
And have I been the guy helping everybody that got relocated?
Yes, you have.
You have.
Yes.
Fixing cars, helping with financial stuff where it's needed, that type thing.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So let's see. What else? Anything else that needs to kind of be put in the? Oh yeah. So after they told you guys to get out now, I had a phone call with Chuck. Zach sitting here. I called him up. I was begging him for more time, and I was like, Chuck, man, that's hardly any time. I'm trying really hard to find places, and I had all you guys looking. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I told you guys to get on it and find a place to live. Like, we'll take care of it. Just help me find you guys a place to live. So you guys were on the hunt for any place to live around San Antonio, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, so then I had a phone call with Chuck. And at that time, when I was saying, hey, Chuck, could you just give us some time to get these? And he's like, no, the owner of the property wants you out now. And like I said, I know Kathy was probably sitting there listening to it. I'm sure she recorded it as well. But Chuck said, if you want to go after Jim and Karen, I'll get out of your way. If you think you can come after me and Kathy, go ahead. But if you go after blank, his mother-in-law, then you got to deal with me. And that's when I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Are you a law officer threatening me that if I try and go after your mother-in-law, you're going to come after me? That is coercion. That is, what was the word I said? That's, where you,
Yeah,
What?
he's using the power of his office.
well, yeah, not coercion, but kind of like coercion. Extortion. I said, that's extortion. You can't do that. And he goes, oh, no. I was like, yeah, you did. You just did it. No. And so I told Chuck that night, I said, you can go to bed tonight knowing I'm not going to sue you. I'm not going to drag your mother-in-law into this. Now, isn't it weird that the mother-in-law that owned the property in Beach City, the federal firearms license that's attached to Jim and all that, is registered at that property. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's 3 different ones.
There's 3 different ones, and they all look like they're attached to that property.
Yes.
We're gonna vet that and make sure that's absolutely correct. But as it looks right now, so that means if I would have filed suit against his mother-in-law and drug her into it because y'all were living in her property, that would have opened the door to all this other information. And it looks like Chuck is an owner or president of a weapons manufacturing company up in Waxahachie, I believe.
Yep.
Does that sound right?
Yep.
Jim also was in a lawsuit, I come to find out from Alex, that he was being sued maybe over something to do with weapons manufacturing parts or something like that. So now the plot thickens. Now, if there's any relation to Jeffrey Pesca, that would just be wild, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so now we need to get some records from Jim, Karen, Kathy, Chuck, and see if any of those people know Jeffrey Pesca, because now the threats from Chuck to me, if you go after your, my mother-in-law, that's it, I'm coming for you. Because that would have opened the door to all the federal firearms problems, because Jim already had, he had already been admonished by the feds, and they decided not to charge him, like formally charge him with federal firearms problems case, but they did give him a letter of warning on 5 different violations. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay.
Got them all documented.
If I remember my conversation with Jim one time, I think there was 3 different gun entities there at Beach City. There was sales, there was upgrade, and then there was a special build shop. So he would build you what you wanted, or you could bring yours in and say, hey, I want this powder coated, I want, this trick wazoo dude I put on it. So that's upgrade. And then there was just walk in off the street, there was cold sales.
I got you. All right. And they were all attached to that property from what we found out. Now I understand what's going on. Now I see. Now here's the thing. Once I said to Chuck, look, I'm getting everybody out, Chuck. Just stay back, leave everybody alone. I'll get everybody out. After that happened, instead, and I told him, you need to tell your wife to leave me alone on social media. Guys, as far as you know, did I have some relationship with Kathy Edge? Did you guys see me with her ever or very often?
No.
Absolutely not.
Right, because the only times I met Kathy were over at her mom's house, and a couple times that she stopped down for get-togethers like Thanksgiving. Now, here's another question. During the Thanksgiving get-together, who was present? I know we had a little fart machine where we pressed a button and it made somebody sound like they had farted, and we put it under Jack Lamb out in the community room when everybody was out there during Thanksgiving. Do y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're cutting up. Okay, well, do y'all remember when Chuck started talking and he had been so quiet the whole time, and he started talking and Kathy put up her hand like she was a police officer stopping traffic right in his face and said, I'm talking. You can talk when I'm done, or like something like that. Do y'all remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So y'all saw that as well.
Yes.
It was horribly uncomfortable. I almost admonished the crap out of her, because that is not the way you treat your husband at all. And I was pissed, but I was like, you know what? If I say anything about it, it's just going to make it worse. But y'all did see that, yes?
Yes. I felt bad for Chuck.
I did too. I was like, that's sick.
And in front of me, she had said, in her house, she said, he's the sheriff, but I wear the pants.
Well, that fits with what LaDonna Cesar says she says, if Chuck's sheriff, that means I'm the sheriff. If he's chief of police, it means I'm the chief of police. She told LaDonna Cesar, and Chuck was running for judge, and all that means is if he's judge, and I'll have to be judge. And she said she doesn't know if she wants to be judge. That's what I've heard from LaDonna. That's not heard. I've recorded that as LaDonna's statement.
Right.
It's in our last video. Okay. Well, that's it, man. Guys, I just want to get all this down. Sorry if I'm talking loud, but every time I do these recordings, I just feel like I need to talk loud.
I got a question.
Okay, so go.
When Beach City was when you put Beach City together, and you talked to me about security and all, and then
When you say putting Beach City together, you mean the The get together,
Evening Under the Stars, yeah.
the night under the stars. That's not Beach City. That's the night under the stars that was going to be at the Ark. I want to make sure it's clear.
To you and told you about firearms, the way I felt about the firearms. And when I talked to Karen, Karen said she didn't care if everybody had a firearm. Nobody talked to her. It was her property. Then called you and talked to you about it. When you called her, as soon as she picked the phone up, her chair flipped upside down. Remember that?
Oh, that's right. Her old chair, she flipped up. That's right. I called her up and I said, look, I got people showing up to see me, and I am not, no one's allowed to go into that get together with any firearms, only the people that are coming down that have a license for concealed carry, and people that, and Shannon was a former police officer. I said, those are the only people that are allowed to have firearms, because I'm not going to let my guests show up and be killed by some lunatic posing as a Kleck follower.
Right.
And guess what? Jeff Pesca was exactly that.
Yeah.
How about this?
So,
Yes.
okay, so you're not aware of this. I've never talked about it.
Uh-oh. There we go.
Dave and Susie know about it. So when we were invited there, I was very excited and really happy because I thought, praise the Lord, I get to be around like-minded people that can fellowship with the truth. But when we got there, you know those big 6.5 foot long cabinet shelves that weigh they're a couple hundred, 250 pounds apiece. Well, they had like 4 of those, 3 or 4, that were like in the middle of the room when we got there. And 4 of them. Okay, thank you, Susie. So I could not move these by myself. I have chronic DVT. I'm not supposed to bang my legs or bruise them because I can get blood clots in my legs.
Okay.
So I asked Karen, can you guys help us move these shelves out of the way so we have room? And her response to me was, I moved them by myself. You're a guy. You can do it. Deal with it. She walked out of the room. I ended up having to get Dave Kinder to come in there and help me move these friggin' gigantic shelves. They left a big giant stack of these really 3/4 inch thick glass plates. I don't know if they were for shells of water. There was a stack of them. They weighed about 80 to 85 pounds apiece. I had to move all those by myself. And then to top that off, I about had a breakdown and ball because Jim acted like he didn't even want me there. He didn't talk to me. He wouldn't look at me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I took Dave. I said, Dave, I'm about ready to bust out and start balling, dude.
Oh, wow. So Jim, so you felt contempt from Jim towards you right at the get-go.
Yeah, he didn't want to talk to me, fellowship with me. He wouldn't even look at me. And so I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I really feel like.
Oh, wow. Isn't that fascinating? Well, let me ask you guys another question, because this is something I heard Karen say, even though I wasn't there very much. I mean, I was there, a couple times a year, 3-4 times a year, something like that, maybe 5.
We did a lot of work.
Well, except on when I was working real hard, we'd go 3 weekends in a row, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so I didn't have like some big hangout relationship at all with Karen. But the times I was there, I heard her say many times, I listened to no man. Does that sound like stuff y'all heard?
Yep.
Yes, it does.
So she has a disdain for men. Does that sound about right?
It sounds like it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, she was very controlling over Jim. She was always putting forth her opinions and what she thinks should be done and pressed it.
A lot of that comes from Bert, their dad, through talking to Kathy. He raised them girls to be dependent on no man, stand on your own 2 feet.
Okay, I got you. But that was a common thing that they would say. I listen to no man.
Both
Okay.
of them.
I got you. But then, so I want to wrap this up. So Kathy Edge, when you were there at her place, where they live, her and Chuck, when you brought up the dog eating butter that was made with Jim's marijuana growing, and Boomer almost died, Kathy made sure you stopped talking about it. Is that correct?
Well, she didn't put it that way. She just kind of stepped in and intervened and kind of threw up a smoke ring for Chuck, like.
Oh, like, look over here. Oh, what's that over there? That type thing? I got you. So she just diverted the conversation. So was it apparent? Was it apparent to you that she obviously knew about it?
Yeah, she knew about it, and she was trying to make sure that Chuck didn't know about it because Chuck, like I said, Chuck was sheriff of Waxahachie County at that time that it happened.
So she knew at that time. Okay, that's it.
Right.
So that would give her a weird dog. That would give her a dog in the fight. Because I was wondering, after I left everybody alone and I didn't sue anybody, I was like, why is Kathy Edge out there running her mouth? Chuck gave me his word she would leave everybody alone. Instead of letting everybody go and let live, instead of doing that, all she did was attack me by starting channels with her sister, mirroring Gene Revel stuff like in playlists, and then writing horrible comments about me that I'm a liar and a false prophet. And I thought, why are they doing this? Why won't they just go away? And they just wouldn't go away, so I ignored them. But now I can't ignore them anymore because of the thing that happened with Richard Montbleu and Jim starting these weird channels like Jonathan Collect Followers. And so I'm like, there's something very nefarious going on in the whole thing. But now I know that Jim had violations with the feds overselling firearms without getting any of the paperwork he should have done, filled out, and those type of things while he was giving firearms to people at, the thing that he had opened up his doors to. Okay, so now we have some very interesting things that people didn't know about. So.
His thing is Chuck keeps showing his dad into public venues. He wants to run for this, run for that, and she doesn't want you to say anything, cast a shadow over his campaign.
Well, that's funny because
Throwing weed with a
yeah, there you go. So I had mentioned that. I had said, you know what? I'll talk to whoever your opponent is and I'll let them know everything I know. So there you go. So now there's a motive. So yeah, because Kathy Edge, she's sheriff, it's not her husband. She's the chief of police, it's not her husband. I'll be the judge, it's not my husband. And now she's got this active campaign and hatred. She absolutely hates me. And now it looks like very apparent that Kathy's got some dog in this fight.
Yeah, she's wanting to discredit everything you say. So if you say something that leads over on the Chuck, that flows on the Chuck, if I can discredit you, well, it ain't going to believe what you say, Chuck.
I gotcha. Okay.
This it is time.
How enlightening. What an enlightening day now.
She didn't come down very often, did
she? I mean, how many times do you think Kathy, I know I only saw her over at her mother's house, maybe, I don't know, 3 times, maybe 4 when I went to the mother's house. But I laid hands on Karen. I went and saw him the first time with you, Jack. Jack, on our first encounter with all of the family, did you and I both get a gift that was given to us?
Yes, we did.
What did we get?
We got an AR.
A 300 blackout.
300 blackout, yeah.
There you go. I had to take I dismantled part of mine because of some new federal laws. But anyway, just to make sure it fell into federal firearms laws. But anyway, so now we have a much broader picture. Now we have a much broader understanding. So Kathy Edge definitely hates me because if her husband was to run for any public office, I could stand in the way of that simply by showing him all the stuff I know about what was going on.
You could throw down on his candidacy just by what you know.
I could throw a whole lot of doubt. Well, it's interesting because we went online and looked, and there's already some problems with other people that have had with Chuck Edge on his watch. So,
and that Jack Lamb has a lot of information. I think you bring him.
You smart ass. Oh, we all got some pretty. Okay, so guys, are we good to wrap up this recording? This is audio recording with Dave, Tinder, Eric and Susie Harless, and Jack Lamb, and Jonathan, Cory, and Zach. Okay, do you guys all acknowledge your presence here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cory Barbie's here.
Zach Wentz here.
Jonathan Kleck.
Jack Lamb.
Yep. Okay, Dave the Wave.
Eric Harless.
Susie Harless.
All right. And Dave Tinder. Okay, there it is. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and post this and let everybody know so that once the whole world has it, everybody's going to, know more than they know now. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, I love you guys. Thank you for just being there and telling the truth.
All right.
All right. And Jack, I can call you back in a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.
Okay.
AC. Okay, let's turn the air conditioning on so there's no background noise. Okay, that's a statement from everybody. Now we have some very pertinent information.